Anything you say or do?
Don't you start yet?
So we're now live on YouTube. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you, councillors, for coming. For those at home, I am Deputy Mayor Alex Furman, and I'll be taking over today's meeting because Mayor Councillor Kate Weller is unable to make it. So we'll get into business. So there's the welcome done. Apologies and absences, please.
Thank you, Jen. We have apologies from Councillor Kate Weller, Councillor Pete Barrow, Councillor Michael Frost, Councillor Anne Weaving, Councillor Kevin Brooks, Councillor Richard Nicholson, and Councillor Christine James.
Thank you very much. Are there any more absences? No, we'll go to a vote then. Yeah, so those in favour of, do we need to? Yeah, proposer. Councillor Hope, seconder, Councillor Taylor, and all those in favour.
That is, as far as I can see, unanimous, Chair. Thank you.
Lovely. Item 3, there appears to be any declarations of interest.
We've had none pre-notified and no councillors have sought a dispensation for this meeting.
Item 4, minutes of the last meeting. I'll be happy with the minutes of the last meeting. Any comments? No, there.
I propose to accept them.
Yeah, proposed by Councillor Harris. Can I have a second, please? Councillor Bell. And can I have a vote to accept those minutes, please?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 4.
Any against? And any abstentions? Okay. In Councillor Weller's absence and me stepping up, I do require a vice chair for the evening. Are there any nominations to come up and give me some assistance? You can self-nominate as well. Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Can I nominate Councillor Tia Roos? I think she did a sterling job in the last term in office, and I'm sure she will help you very much this evening.
Okay, one second.
Could you do
She accepted.
It's Tia, it's fast. You thought you got rid of the job, but.
I'll accept that. I've got a bit of a situation,
Yeah,
that could, but it should be fine.
okay, are there any other nominations?
Yeah, we'll get through it quickly.
Or any self-nominations? No? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Councillor, if you're happy to do that.
Yeah, I have a second.
Well done, Kim.
I've got a
We have a
second.
second, Councillor Harris. And quick show of hands, everybody's happy with that.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Come on then, Councillor Reeves. Members, all right, we're going to councillor questions and statements. I've had a request from David Harris. David?
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm afraid I'm the bearer of some sad news over the death of a former long-serving councillor that many of you will have known. That's Joy Stanley, who's also an alderman. Joy had a short stay in hospital prior to her death in August and made it very clear she did not want any fuss or remembrance services by the council. Although she is a regular member of the church, she didn't want them involved either. I was first elected as a councillor in the same year as Joy in the early 1990s, and so we knew each other for a very long time. One of the things that I also am very pleased that I knew her was that she let me have her back garden as an allotment. So that's a very friendly activity. But as well as being a kind and caring councillor for the Melcombe ward in the old borough, there are two other aspects of Joy's life that I just want to remind us about. For a long time, Joy ran the Parade Cafe at Greenhill Gardens, and it was also a good meeting point, of course, for her residents in Melcombe. Just along from the cafe, she had her beach chalet, used for two main purposes, and many of you may have seen her there. Regular sea swimming without a wetsuit. She was quite brave with that. And more recently, a place to knit and sell the products that for charity. I still have Joy's knitted poppy for our Armed Forces commemorations. But those of you who knew Joy, please take a moment from tomorrow or in the future to reflect on your memories, but otherwise we're not holding any formal act of remembrance. To reflect her works, however, there was there was one other thing that she asked for in her will. A memory bench close to her beloved Green Hill Cafe and her beach hut. And she's left the money for that because we obviously got sponsored seats now being put in. So hopefully there will be a time in the near future when you'll be able to walk along the seafront and sit on the bench that is there in memory of Joy and her parents. Thank you very much for listening. And thank you, Joy, and peace be with you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harris. Are there any other questions or statements from members? No? Okay, we're going to move on. As the mayor is not here, we will do town mayor's announcements, and we'll move to public questions. And we'll defer to the town clerk.
Thank you, Chair. There's one public question being received. It's detailed in the agenda along with the response, and I wasn't planning on saying anything else. We have no other public questions notified.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, into the main portion of business, we're at item number 8.
Point of order.
Yes.
Since this is being put out onto YouTube or whatever, shouldn't we read that out so that people would know what's going on here?
It's not a requirement to read anything on the agenda, which is the public document detailing business to be transacted in the meeting. We don't normally read the questions out. However, if I'm happy to defer to the decision of the chair of the meeting.
If the papers are public, people are able to go on and see that response if they wish to, otherwise we'll get back to business.
And the person who asked the question was notified a few days ago that it was in the papers and of the council's response as well. So they have been notified.
Thank you. Okay, item number 8, the neighbourhood plan updates. I'd like to invite Councillor Northam to introduce this, please.
Thank you, Councillor Goodman. There are 3 parts to this: approving the revised terms of reference, seeing if there's any follow-up from the previous full council where I asked for input on community and leisure facilities, and really telling you about the revised timings in the report. So I had intended that this would be the meeting at which we endorsed the neighbourhood plan. We've not had some of the reports which have been commissioned delivered to us over the summer period, particularly the strategic environmental assessment. It actually arrived today. That's the interim report. So that was something which we need to take into account. Also, there was a delay in getting the viability testing report underway. The government fund locality as their supplier of advice to neighbourhood plans and other such organisations. It's an annual funding that starts in April and runs through to the following March. They didn't release the fundings this year for the whole of localities funding in this area until July. So we managed to get our work kicked off in August, but we're only a week or so into it, so nothing to report just yet. So that meant that we haven't been in a position to complete the report to the level we would like to. We hope to be able to do so by the 27th of September, and we'll see in the forward plan that there's now a special full council meeting for that purpose. And excuse me, there are some other items on the agenda. So that's the revised timings in the report. The terms of reference update, we had a set of terms of reference, and we realized that we'd never formally updated those terms of reference to reflect 1 or 2 decisions which the steering group took about membership. The terms of reference has now been updated to reflect that. It still maintains the principle that this is a steering group primarily comprising residents, but with 4 councillors on that committee. On that steering group. Those are the major changes. If you just wind down to the diagrams. That's the organisation structure in principle. This is the organisation. So we updated this as a steering group in June. There's been the opportunity to bring it to full council. And that's the structure of the steering group at the moment. So that's an item we're asking for formal approval of. The other item on here is information, and I'd ask if any councillors have looked at the section, policy 48 and 49, which are the community and leisure policies about protecting existing community buildings. There's a general policy around that. We have a map which lists all the facilities which are listed online, and you can see they cover colleges, doctors, dentists, those sort of functions. And we also went out previously and asked councils, just wind down to the list, for community halls which were available to the public across Weymouth. And we've got this list here. I've had one correction fed into me on this, which isn't on this sheet yet, but will go in the next version. So if there are any other changes with respect to community halls, I'd be interested in that. I'll mention that as a committee, we thought pubs are really important for communities. But how do we go about selecting which pubs? So it's better to have a general policy that says community buildings are important and it's for the people in the community to make the case, really. And I'd remind members of the community that you can actually register community buildings, assets of community value. And there are a number of those that have been done in Weymouth already. So that's that bit. If we can just wind down a little bit more, please. To policy 49. Yeah, you go there. Oh, missed it, sorry. Okay, back up there. Wait a minute. Oh, there we go. Thank you. This is about sports and recreation. And it prompted me to look up what the government says on sports and recreation sites. And it's quite tight. I was surprised because you hear these stories of schools selling off their playing fields. Already the government requires, in order for that to happen, that a case is made to the local authority that there is no need for that school to retain those provisions, nor any schools in the vicinity. And there has to be demonstrated before it's permitted for that site to be sold off. This is dealing more generally and not just with that case. This is about sports and recreation. Within this, we mentioned the swimming pool and we mentioned Redlands as the 2 public areas. There are 2 registered playing fields in Weymouth. They're both in my ward, but that's nothing to do with me. Redlands playing fields and the Corfe playing field. Never seen anyone play football on it. Work on that. There are other playing fields, you councillors are aware. If we mention them, it avoids any doubt. So I did ask if you would like to forward any details on that, please do. So I think really it's a case of now moving to the opening it up to any questions. Noting the steering group recommendations are that we approve, that you approve the amended terms of reference. You note that you've been invited to provide any additional community and leisure facilities, and you note the revised timings of the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Norman. Would anybody like to question or comment? Councillor Ferrari.
Still got yours on, David.
Lights on. The battery lights on.
Oh, is it? Nothing too serious. The font was too small for me to read it on the maps of what the locations were, and I couldn't extract the map to expand it. Could it be distributed separately?
Yes.
Because I couldn't read what the individual plots were.
Yes, he's fine.
Thank you.
That's it, finished.
I'm finished.
Thank you, councillor Farrar. Any other questions or comments from members? Councillor Worthy.
Can I just ask why it was mute out?
This building,
Yes, this is finished happening.
This is now.
noted, thank you.
Okay, thank you, councillor Wakefield. Any other comments, questions, members? Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, councillor Berman. Can I propose that we move the recommendations A, B and C? As in the paper.
Certainly you can. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Howard Legg, I believe. Yeah, that's what it's saying. We'll move to the vote. Those in favour? Go ahead, House, please. Thank you very much, members. So move along. We will go to. We will go to item 9, which is neighbourhood plan local green spaces. I had Colin Marsh was going to come and visit to talk about this, but if Councillor Northam, you could take this place, please, and introduce.
Thank you, yes. Colin Marsh has been doing an awful lot of work on the neighbourhood plan. I thank him for that. In particular, he's been collating the local green space nominations. We've got over 50 of them, and we're now putting them into the plan in a very formal way. And this is a site that is owned by Weymouth Town Council. We previously agreed all the sites that were owned by Weymouth Town Council to be proposed for designation as local green spaces. This came up at the last at a previous full council. I didn't have a map, so when I was asked what land does this cover, it was ambiguous in the description. This map now clarifies the land that was being specified, and for sake of completeness, there's also the map that shows the asset holding in Weymouth Town Council. So what I'd ask is if members could approve that this go forward as a local green space. Take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much. Correction there, councillor Northam, it was services who deferred this
Thank you.
item, not full council.
Okay.
And that was due to the fact that when this previously came to services, there was no visuals or description of where the land was that we were looking to appoint. It just stated land in Southville. And it was a split vote at the services committee, but the vote did go through, actually on my casting vote, that it wasn't informative enough for the committee to make a definitive decision. I'm now pleased to see this full list, including visual maps, so we have a clear and definitive list of where we're appointing. And I would actually now be happy to propose this when it comes to the vote for adoption.
Thank you, Councillor Hope. Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you very much, Chair. I was just wondering on this item, were the results of the surveys that you asked for, are they on this thing? And where are the results of the survey? The last survey.
So on the survey, the third engagement survey, this site was included as a point on a map rather than a detailed map, as were all the other local green spaces. The general response was in favour in this particular area. And we now have published on the website the third engagement report.
Not the results of the survey, just the report.
Yes,
So we can't see the results of the survey.
you can see the summary, the analysis and the summary of the report. You can't see each individual's response.
Councillor Dickinson, do you need to, do you want to clarify that with further question or just allow? If you-
Well, I just wanted to know what the results of the survey were, not the report that was written, because you can't see the results of the report of the survey. But
Town clerk.
thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Having read the report off of the website, the results are in there. It's not analysis of the results, it includes the results. I think the point that councillor Northam is attempting to get across is that each individual survey response is included, which is very usual. You aggregate results, you add them together, you tabulate, you extrapolate. You don't put everybody's in case any personal identification markers are in there. So the results are there.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Taylor.
Can I just ask, if another green space that isn't listed on there, if we wanted to register it later after the local plan was approved, is that possible?
So I'm just thinking about this, the neighbourhood plan can receive subsequent submissions for it, but I'm not sure when they get processed through. We probably will take a pause between having this neighbourhood plan made in 2024 and producing a revision of that. I'll find out whether we can actually make minor amendments in fast pace. What I wouldn't want to do is to have to go through this whole process again. It's possible where there are minor amendments, they can be made. I'll take advice on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, statements of council or on agenda items? No. Well, the recommendation from the steering group is that the council endorse the inclusion within the neighbourhood plan of when the town council owns sites, South Wales potential local green space. Do I have a proposal, please? Councillor Hope and a seconder, Councillor Tewkesbury. Can I have a vote, please, in favour?
Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much, members. Item 10, budget monitoring Q1. I will look to Ian Mill to introduce this.
Thank you, Chair. The Q1 budget monitoring report and financial information was considered by the Finance and Governance Committee back in July. They obviously looked at the detail and the process. If there's any corrective action, they will form part of the recommendation to come to full council for members to consider. As there were no recommendations made from Finance and Governance, we're just asking full council to note the report. I appreciate members that normally reports just for note don't form part of the main body of the agenda, but our auditors have indicated that they would like to see it in the main agenda, but we are just asking the report be noted.
Thank you very much, Ian. Any comments, questions from members, please? Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Ian, I'm just looking through the page 2 when it comes to Tumbledown. And it says contributions 7,000, fees and charges 33,000, rents and licenses 500, and sales 1,000, coming to 41,000. Is that a plus or a minus? Does that mean Tumbledown is £41,000 in the red, or is it in the black?
So what the report is saying at the moment, Councillor Dickinson, is the figures which you've just quoted there are the budgeted figures. And we are aiming to be on to meet those expected income levels by year end. We haven't had a sufficient amount of time for the year to move away from that. So what those figures are showing is that's the anticipated income, and we're expecting to meet those targets by the March 2024.
Did you have a follow-up question, Councillor Dickinson? I see you nodding readily, but maybe for Councillor Gray's coming. Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Chair. Different question. I'm just checking in on Commercial Road costings, Deputy Town Clerk. Can you just, 'cause I can't see the detail, I'm wondering whether it's, commercial road, 3,000 the first quarter over, is that something to do with the repairs we've had done here? I think objective overspend.
Yes, so I think that will refer councillor Gray to the business rates, which we have already paid this year, and we know that they're above budget due to the National Review of Business Rates, which have been undertaken or came into effect from April this year.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for this report. I wanted to ask, there's obviously been serious headline news today about Birmingham Council. Can you explain if that's a situation that one of the town council might find itself in? Or if we have different setup financially that would prevent that?
I don't think I can reassure councillor Hamilton that we're not in a position where the equivalent of a section what they call 114 notice is issued. So that's when there's serious issues with their finances, and we're not in that position, which we're in a good position. So not anticipating anything like that.
Any other questions? Any other questions, comments? There is a recommendation from Finance and Governance Committee here, but we can take it as noted. Is there a burning ambition to vote it through, or are we happy with it being noted?
Noted.
Yeah, reasonably noted. Okay, we will close that item and move on to the next one. Put it in this folder, but I can't bring it down. Item 11, yes, ma'am. Item 11, community infrastructure levy reserve allocation. We have a recommendation for us, but I think there's going to be some conversation on this. So anybody would like to get started? Councillor Wade, thank you.
If I may introduce this item, Chair. Finance and Governance in May looked at our SIL reserve and decided we wanted to try and find ways to use it. This is noted in the run up to this was we defined funds from other sources because we had too much money sat in our SILs. It just stopped the supply for grants, particularly for Tumbletown. And if we don't spend it in 5 years, Dorset can claim it back apparently because we're not using it well. So there were these two reasons why we had to try and find something to do with it. So over the summer, there's been a very short time scale, working group, myself, Colin, David and Oldham, and officers have tried to find things to spend it on. And we've looked at things that could be delivered this financial year, things that will not burden our officer team particularly. We want things that can be delivered quite light touch. Things we don't need to work with third-party partners to deliver, things we can deliver as a council, say we did this, and things that residents can actually see in tangible things they can enjoy. Some infrastructure is very dull and boring, but residents don't really appreciate that. We want things that residents be able to see and go, the town council's done this. So attached is our list of things we've proposed. There is two lists. The top list is actually our recommendations. Those are the things we looked at and said, and we've looked, our officers have gone across and said, these are possibles. The things in the bottom list on that page 3, they're ideas we considered but haven't proposed this time. There might be things for the future, but for now, we've tried to prioritise the top list. The number one thing on it is a significant sum of money to refurbish a toilet block. I think the working group was very keen that we have some money to start working on refurbishing our because we haven't done any for some time. So deep refurbishment, not just a lick of paint here. Other things, there's some parks, Emily, our parks officer, suggested some playground equipment. This is expired, which end of its life, and we could use still money to replace. We have other recommendations. Some things are a little bit more fun for residents that they might enjoy, maybe some free table tennis tables in some of our parks and open spaces. And accessibility on the beach, that was recommended by the beach resort team. So there was a mix of ideas, they're spread around the town, they're not in one ward, we tried to spread out some of the sill. So we can bring a bit of joy to our residents, because it's a developer contributions, it hasn't come from our tax base. We can't use it for revenue support, we have to spend it on community infrastructure. So things like we're proposing, which hopefully can bring a bit of joy to our residents.
Thank you, councillor Wakeling. Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Chair. Whilst I appreciate the four councillors who put this list together, I can't support this document. And if you indulge me, I'll explain why.
I will let you be indulged by everyone.
Thank you. So we have some key documents that this council's worked on over the last 2 or 3 years, which need investing in, and I'll name some of them. So we have an asset list that came through F&G and full council, which specified which play areas we needed to invest in. We have a Seafront Master Plan outcome list, which specifies which items we should be investing in. So these documents that I'm referring to have already gone through committees, and we've already decided which are the priorities. And if we're going to spend still money, we should spend it on the priorities we've already decided. I'll give you an example. We have £45,000 in a reserve for play areas, and we had £45,000 in there last year. So it hasn't been spent, and yet I'm faced with trying to support something that's asking for another 70,000, and we haven't spent the 45,000 we have. Now, if this is a priority list, if this is taken from the assets that we need to invest in, we should be going to the reserve list first. That's what reserves were designed for. They've already gone through scrutiny through a committee. They've already been debated and decided. So there are key documents, the asset list, the Seafront Master Plan, play areas, and indeed we've got an asset subgroup who bring these ideas forward. It feels to me like this is a bit rushed. We should refer it, my plea would be to refer this back to committee to bring together the Seafront Master Plan document, which we went through a lot of angst to get to a final stage, and for us to say that's not a priority but this is a bit silly really, because we've spent money producing a Seafront Master Plan. We have an asset manager who produced a list of red, amber, green things that we need to invest in. And I was challenged at F&G when I was at F&G to say where we would get the money from. And we found some money, and here's the rest of it. So we need to follow our own procedures and also appreciate the work that's gone into this. And I think, you know, toilets, the toilet group did a great job, and I think the decision on the asset list was we're going to do 1 year. So that will go ahead, I think, because we already decided. I don't see them as being risk. I think they need to be brought together in a proper work programme based on what we've already debated and based on what we've already decided to invest in, rather than a document that's come over the top and sort of push those to one side.
Thank you, Councillor Gray. Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, Councillor Furman. Well, Councillor Gray has already hit the nail on the head with a lot of what I was going to say, so I'm not going to repeat that. But I do have to disagree with Councillor Wakeling in his introduction. He says we're not spending SIL, because Appendix X in this document, the working groups presented to us, demonstrates that we've already spent £323,500. So projects that have gone through the committee process and are in line with our strategy documents. Now, those on F&G will know that I was very, very uneasy about this process. I felt it was rushed and we was not being thorough with money that's available to us now, but possibly not in the future. All because we've had an application, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, for £20,000 turned down because of the SIL money that we've got. Now that item needs to be funded for £20,000. then that item can come forward as a civil request to the appropriate committee. Not let's spend £300,000 so that we can try and get 20,000 in the future. It's unlogical. I'm glad councillor Gray made reference to the Seafoam Master Plan, because that's going to the Services Committee soon, and we can approve that document and make use of some of this SIL money to deliver that document. Not a pipe dream or a wish list of certain councillors in certain wards. Like councillor Gray, I will actually be voting this down. It's up really for toilets. The asset manager wants to develop a set of toilets. There's a budget there. If he needs additional, come and ask for additional still. I think this is very naive what we've done. We've actually, in some instances, shown our hand to possible people that may tender because they know what our budget constraints are. They're going to be both tender documents will come in around these men. And one last thing is around the application for goalposts and basketball hoops. That's one I can support, knowing that Weymouth Town Council has just scrapped multiple basketball equipment. So why should we now pay for £5,000 new when we had some that we could have used? And that just proves the level of support and import that's gone into this document. So it's nothing I could support, and I think that we should follow the due process as this council has, and award civil money to deserving projects that are well thought out, as we already had with 323,000.
Thank you, councillor Hope. Councillor.
Thank you. I feel a bit resentful of the accusation of being a ward councillor putting forward projects for my ward. I resent that accusation. This subgroup met. I wasn't a member of F&G. I was aware that it was happening, and I put my name forward to come forward. We came up with ideas. I don't recollect being told that there was already money in the reserves for any of this work. I would have expected both the deputy town clerk to be aware of that as finance officer, and actually some of the council members who put forward these ideas, the council officers who put forward these ideas. If they've got money in the reserve, you've really got to decide why isn't it being spent. So I feel uncomfortable that we've got to this situation. So I support this going back to committee, but I'm a little resentful of the accusations on what the job that we did, which we tried to do in the best way possible. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Norman. Councillor Ferrari.
Just a protest question to start. One would hope that the 323,550 that has been spent was the first still that we received through the door. So implicitly, the 5 years isn't the problem, because we've spent the first half of the sum of money. So the 5-year issue isn't the problem, because if that's the case, we've got the oldest still we've got is 2.5 years old. So we've got plenty of time to decide on that. I can't reconcile 345 on the appendix and the 310 that says the current balance here being held in the civil reserve, because the project is 345 and the reserve is 310. But even if I'm misreading something here, this is a cupboard that's bare by the time we finished it. We've spent everything that's not nailed down. It strikes me as conceivable that new requirements might become available. So the process questions from the various committees are well taken, but if I can just go those other 2 points. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Ferrari. Ian, would you want to just clarify the point for members?
I think the town clerk has highlighted, Chair, that the gap between the 310 and the 305 to be was recommended as a recommendation report to be funded from still reserve receipts which we're expecting in October, or if not, to be funded from the underspend, which is sitting in reserve at the moment, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any more comments, questions?
Different topic.
I'll indulge for a moment if you can just keep it brief.
So within the committee group, I was particularly critical of the fact that a tumble down application had been made to Dorset Council, and Dorset Council refused it on the basis that we weren't spending our SIL. And I agree with Councillor Ferrari, we have spent SIL. There is more SIL to come in, but I find this unreasonable. Weymouth has some of the highest levels of house building. That's why we have a SIL receipts here. But it shouldn't deny us applying to Dorset Council under the terms of grant systems which they're providing for community benefit, applying for such schemes. So I feel that we're being sort of prejudiced by Dorset Council. So in the meeting, I suggested that if we were applying whatever sum we might choose to allocate from our SIL, we should seek an equivalent amount from Dorset Council, because to my knowledge, and I may be wrong, Dorset Council so far have not invested any money in Tumbledown, and as a consequence, it's all come from Weymouth Town Council. An awful lot of value has come from volunteers contributing labour for free. So a lot has been achieved at Tumbledown without cost. And remember that the people that Tumbledown is providing service for is vulnerable adults. These vulnerable adults would otherwise be not able to receive local services, local activities in the Weymouth area. We're filling a gap that's not being provided. So we're actually doing Dorset Council some favour. So I'd ask that when it goes into committee, that point about match funding is also brought up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Norton. Councillor Orrell.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Making the same point about Tumbledown, really, that we're limited in where we can apply for funds. We've tried applying to lottery and water, and when they find out that as a council, it's council land, and we've got council monies, we get thrown out. So I think it's unfair that the town council is expected to pay for all the improvements, as Councillor Norton was saying there, most of the benefits are going to people with learning disabilities, children in education who are falling out of education, and also people in the NHS who need help with their mental health. And all these external organisations are getting benefit from Tumbledown Farm, but none of them are being prepared to put any money in, which is unfair. I don't think it should all come from the town council. So one of the motivations for this endeavour, which I could see maybe pushed back, was to try and unblock that funding from Dorset Council, because we did ask for 50,000, which would be reasonable, I think, because we're providing that amount of benefit to Dorset Council and fulfilling their responsibilities, things they should be providing, we're providing. We're not getting it because of that unspent SIL. So if it does go back to be looked at in the committee, can it be some degree of, not say urgency, because you want to spend it wisely, but appropriate haste to spend the money wisely on our priorities, so that we are able to apply to Dorset Council the money which we ought to, and we need for building A at Tumbledown. We've got a funding gap. The town council has been wonderful. We've got about half the funds for building A, which is a classroom, teaching classroom toilets, and we still need the rest of the funding, and we need somehow to unlock that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Reeve.
I hope I can put some other spins on this. One of my job roles, millions, it seems to keep growing every year that I'm working. I work in a thing called Transitions, which is where people from mental health hospitals are supported by me for the first 6 weeks that they're in our community. And my job is to make sure that they build connections and social connections and so forth. Interestingly enough, I've seen quite a lot of shocking things that people deal with when they come out of hospital, things like no carpets in their homes, not having stable housing, being in insecure housing, being homeless. In fact, it's a topic that's come up that is so alarming that we're now doing a survey and some research on how many people we engage with that are actually homeless coming out of Folkestone Clinic or St Anne's. I just wonder, and I'll lead to Tumble Down in a minute. I just wonder if going through due process, looking at how we are spending SIL money, making sure that we do spend it, because there's a million things we could spend that money on. The real important things that won't be picked up by Dorset Council, that will affect communities in a million different ways. It's got to go through due process. I think it's important to go through committees. It's important to look at exactly why, the wheres, how we can make ourselves more appealing for more money being spent our way as well. The toilets are a contentious issue, for example, at Tumble Down. You've got to remember that when you come out of hospital or when you're particularly unwell, you're likely to not have very much money to spend or to do things. And so transport's an issue, getting to Tumble Down Farm is an issue, and the fact that the toilets aren't good enough is an issue, that there aren't usable toilets. That has put people off using Tumble Down Farm. We need to be looking at how do we get transport there, how do we get toilets that are usable for people with disabilities or who, you know, lots of people do use as well. There's just so much that we could be spending money on, and yet where does it fall under our responsibility? Where is it other people's responsibility? We have to be aware that the NHS is struggling right now. We have to be aware that social services are struggling right now. We have crumbling infrastructure. We have crumbling social care. And we've got money sitting there needing to be spent. We really need to be getting our heads together and getting onto this. And I think we have to do it the right way so that we can get more money in the future as well.
Thank you, councillor Roos. Can I just sort of bring us back to perhaps where we started the conversation on, though all of the good parts of this report and the spending and the needs for those spending are at our disposal as members. I think I'd like to bring it back to when we talked about process, because as much as we can say good things about our project, I think before we do any of that, we need to have good process in place. And I'd look to perhaps go quickly to Councillor Hope and then back to Councillor Wakeling, if that's okay, if you've got anything closing on that, and then we could take a recommendation on which road we'd like to go, please. Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, Councillor Thurman. I was actually looking to make a recommendation if I can, but I will defer that if Councillor Wakeling wants to make a comment.
Okay, yes, Councillor Wakeling, would you like to comment?
Thank you. So just to add to the sort of discussion about process here, F&G asked this working group to formulate these plans. If we wish to spend the money this winter, we need to sign it off. And I believe only full council can sign off SIL reserves. If it goes through the process, it has to go to F&G in October. It will be back with this group in December. We'll have lost 3 months, unless everyone else lost their meetings. Now, that might be the right thing to do, but there are some things on here. The toilets has got a very long lead time on it. If we don't sign that money up till December, it won't happen this winter. So that was the reason why, and it was contentious at F&G. I do recall some members did not want one working group to come up with ideas, but in good faith, we've tried to go away and say, what can we prioritise? What is a quick win? But I was having a chat with the town clerk this afternoon about the toilet refurb. Once you put in tendering the contract out and stuff, we need to get the ball rolling this month if we seriously want to refurbish a toilet this year. If we miss this winter, we won't be able to do it between Easter and this time next year, so it'll get kicked another year down the road. So, actually, lots of hands suddenly rising. I would urge I'm happy for this to go back, or to go back to committee, but members may wish to consider cherry picking one or two things out of the list that we do really want to deliver this winter, because I don't feel if it goes through the whole process, we're just going to run out of time. Is my plea there. So, if I may, I would suggest the toilets are probably the most urgent of the whole lot. So if members would like to see a set refurbished this year, please consider picking that out of the list.
Okay, thank you, councillor Wakeling. Councillor Harris.
I think we can answer that question for you quite happily, because the toilets are already in there with the budget. It's just a matter of our asset manager now getting on with spending that money and getting the toilets refurbished. So in terms of some of the things that are on your list, as Councillor Gray said, the money is there, it has been allocated, we just are asking our officers now to spend it. And that will be even quicker than you were asking for anyway, because they can actually start tomorrow.
Thank you, councillor Harris. Councillor Taylor.
Could I just, could I have clarification from the finance officer about councillor Ferrari's comments that because we've spent some of the SIL money already, we have about 2.5 years before we need to spend this?
The only time I get to use a word like that, I think, in a meeting, where if we do spend it on a first in, first out basis. So if you look at starting at the front, then yes, we are well within the sort of 5 years. So the 5 year will start, I was going to say, in about 2.5 years, we've got another 2.5 years until what we're holding has to be used by. That makes sense. So Ferrari is actually correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Taylor. Councillor Gray. I'm probably going to look for a recommendation after this.
Just for clarity, we have an asset manager who has recommended toilets to be refurbed. He has money. There is no reason why he can't go to tender. We don't need the money. Even if you were to go to tender, we can get that ball rolling tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. We could have done it 4 weeks ago. So this document is not gone through the due process in my view, and I will be voting against it all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, members. Do we have a recommendation, or we're going to go for a vote on that to see if it's Councillor?
Thank you very much, Councillor. As mentioned, I'd like to make the recommendation that we reject this list in its entirety. I think we have the confidence tonight, both hearing around the policies that are going on and how SIL processes worked previously. This list isn't required. The items on this list is already in hand via our strategy documents, our asset management plan, parks and open spaces policy, all allows these works to happen within the current budgets. If those budget holders need additional information, they can make the application to the relevant committee to come forward to full council. And that's the same with Tumbledown. I have had a conversation previously with the manager at Tumbledown to say, if you need more money to accelerate the works, put an application into services and we can look to see if we can endorse it. So my proposal is that we decline this SIL application and take no further action.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Gray. Okay, members, we will go to a vote. Those in favour of the recommendation by Councillor Hope.
I can have a clear indication, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 4.
Those against?
1, 2, 3.
And any abstentions, please?
1, 2, 3, 4, 4. So that is carried. So the list is rejected in its entirety.
Thank you very much, members. And just an observation on that, members, that I think it's important we don't take things personally within this realm. The whole idea of us meeting and debating these things is so we can all get them right. You know, nothing's going to go perfect, but I love the fact that we can just debate these things, get the right answer and get the process in order. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, where am I looking? Somebody's not making themselves known if they wish to speak. Oh, yes, councillor Lake.
Can I just ask for assurance that the next full council meeting, which is only 3 weeks away, will have confirmation that work on a toilet block has been commenced? When I say work, it can be office work. I'm not talking about necessarily in the block, obviously, because we've got to get contracts in first.
Sure, I'm going to go to,
But that job will be done this week.
thank you, councillor Lake. We're going to go to Charmaine for, please.
We still need, confirmation from services that will be good services on authorities for the toilets, because even though, we have confirmed budget, we haven't confirmed programme for what the members of services want to prioritise. Working group, we need to go back to services and then service.
It's not the working group.
No.
No, there's an asset management plan.
Okay, guys, no, it's fine. If members would hold their conversations, please, will come through the chair. Thank you very much. Councillor Lake, is that a satisfactory response?
No, I didn't agree.
Okay, I was supposed to
What is the process?
Okay,
I would suggest that the assistant town clerk who clerks and services committee speaks to the asset manager this week to determine the format of a report to come forward to the next services committee on proposals for toilet refurbishment.
Thank you.
councillor Lake, I repeat my question. Satisfactory, thank you. Councillor Chidley, is it me a quick one, because this isn't an agenda item, and I'm conscious that we don't want to add in more stuff for the sake of it.
Very quickly, just in the meantime, we'll still wait for that to happen. Can we start the tendering processes on prices for the refurbishment of toilets? It's not going to cost them to do that.
Charmaine?
Until we have a clear steer from services, how can we go out to tender when we don't know what we're tendering for, or how can we start to put specifications together?
But we know the toilets that we want to refurbish, so we just need to get tendering prices for those toilets.
We don't know, because we don't know what services can change them up. We don't know. We could get a steer, if there's 2 or 3 blocks, I don't know personally what
Just
the.
trying to get us ahead of the game a little bit.
Yeah, town clerk, and then I'll excuse me, clerk. Thank you. Then I'll allow the chair of services, right, and then I want to move on to the next gentleman, town clerk.
Thanks, Jeff. Just to be clear, if you are asking officers to put together a tender document to go live with on a complete refurbishment of all of our toilets. Okay, we don't know what the priorities are. We don't know which toilet block it is you want us to quote for, get quotes for. If you want us to quote for the lot, we'd be looking at an overdue level tender exercise, which will take months and take an awful lot of time and contractor input to draft those documents. We need services to tell us, we want you to prioritise Code Street, Maiden Street, underground toilets on the prom. We need that steer so we know what we're tendering for.
Yeah, we just spent 20 minutes talking about process, so we can't suddenly have it not work for us, work for us when we go to something else we want to do. We want to keep to that line. Councillor Hope, then Councillor Bray, and I'm definitely going on.
I'm just going to finish by saying we have an asset maintenance plan that identifies what assets need to be maintained and refurbished when. I personally don't see the requirement for it to come back to services. That plan has been approved, with delegated authority and funding to the asset management plan.
Councillor Bray.
It's, from memory, and it's stretching my memory, I think it was Cove toilets and then the ones on the corner of
Maiden Street.
Main Street. I think they were the priorities. And if Mark's right, if we can get some sort of document that says these are the 2 we need to do, then we can get on with it. I don't see any stopping, but I feel really happy now that you've told the town clerk off after me.
If there is an agreed plan of toilet refurbishment with timescales and priorities, we will look at that and we will take that forward. Happy to bring an update to services so that you're informed on what's going on, but we'll take forward what is already agreed, if it's already agreed. I have to admit, I'm not okay with that particular document, so
Lovely. Thank you, councillor Tewkesbury, for bringing that forward. I'm not taking any more. We're moving on to agenda point 12. No, I'm chairing this meeting. Thank you very much. We are moving to item 12. Thank you, councillor Hamilton. Councillor Hamilton, we are moving forward. I would appreciate your understanding that I have noted that twice. I don't mean to be rude or forward with you, but standing orders dictate that I'm running the agenda and we are on to item 12. Committee membership. Would anybody, this is the changing of Peter Barrow and councillor David Gray to swap their respective seats of HR and Finance Governance Committee. You will note that councillor Barrow is the chair of F&G and therefore F&G will have to vote their own chairing at their next meeting. Anybody, any comments or proposals? Councillor Hope, please.
Thank you very much. Mr. Furman, I would just like to propose the straight swap within the Liberal Democrat group, propose that this swap does take place. Thank you very much.
Second.
Secondly by councillor Wade, as he was next to speak. So, yeah, can I take a vote of approval of that, please?
That's what you were going to say.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, 24.
Sorry, 24.
20 in favour.
Against? Thank you, councillor. Against? And any abstentions?
So that is carried and I will make the appropriate arrangements, Chair.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 13, update standing orders recommended by the Finance and Governance Committee. You have the text in front of you. Would any members like to get us started on this one? You will see, you will note that the changes are in red. Councillor Lambert, please.
Thank you, Chair. I was very pleased that Finance and Governance agreed to make a change to the name of Services Committee. However, I think that they rather put the cart before the horse. And so I would like to make an amendment that it should be Environment and Services, and that the due points within the recommendation there should be turned around. Now, this may seem like a minor point, but I actually think it's very important, and I'll try to explain why.
May I just, councillor Lambert, interrupt you, because you are bringing forward an amendment, could I just check if anybody has any other comments or questions on the substantive first, before we go to an amendment? Is that okay with you, councillor? Because I want to be able to flush out anything before and then not go out.
But if the amendments passed, you change the substantive and have to start the debate on the substantive again.
I'm not, in that case, I'm not going to take the amendment. I'm going to allow for the conversation on the substantive first, and then I will take the amendment.
Point of order, Chair.
Yeah.
So there's not a recommendation yet on the table to amend, so councillor Lambert can make a proposal should he wish.
Okay, so would you, rather than an amendment, would you like to make a proposal, councillor Lambert? Bureaucracy.
I'll have to make a proposal.
Okay, go ahead, councillor Lambert.
Okay, I propose that the information that was shown under section 4, which is in the agenda there, should that should go through, except that where it says services and environment, it should say environment and services, and where it says S and E, it should say E and S. So if I may be allowed, Chair, then to explain my thinking on this, thank you. So I was pleased that there was an agreement that we should put environment into the name there. We on the CE group were possibly a little bit slow-witted, or certainly I was, that we hadn't pushed for this before. Because, just to remind everybody, first point, we did declare climate and ecological emergency in 2019, and we should be prioritised in the environment at all points. And that's why I want to see it going first. Second point I would make
is that the level of climate disruption that's going on is taking climate scientists by surprise. To name but a few of the things that have happened this year, in the summer in particular, in Greece, Portugal, Spain, India, Canada, in Hawaii, Florida, California, British Ontario, and I could go on. There are major climate disruptions. Today in the news, the World Meteorological Organization identified a vicious cycle whereby air pollution is feeding off climate change. Today, the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, said that climate breakdown has begun. We, in general, everyone has got to be taking the environment, putting the environment at the top of their list. And I think it's important that we show this by this minor semantic change. Now, at the last full council meeting, members were good enough to endorse the 5-year plan, action plan with regard to the climate and ecological emergency. What you haven't received thus far, although it is in the pipeline and will go along to whatever we call services committee after this item, at the next services meeting, there will be a report on the decarbonisation progress so far.
Councillor Lambert, may I just bring you back to the amendment, please?
I am speaking to the amendment. I'm explaining why I'm wanting to put it forward.
Okay, could we be a little bit more succinct, because we are getting to grander items on your.
I've finished my grander items.
Okay.
I'm now speaking about what goes on within the council. And if you gave me a little bit of time, I would explain myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Please do keep it to council business, please. Thank you.
I am keeping it to council business. When you stopped me, I was talking about.
Councillor Lambert, we're not having a conversation. I'm asking you to continue. If you wish to continue, do so. Otherwise, you can end and we will move on. Which is it you would like to do, sir?
All right, continue.
Continue then, please, sir.
At the next services committee, there will be a report on the decarbonisation plan, which has been agreed through the CE working group. And it's clear that we are going to find it extremely difficult, if not impossible, to achieve our goal of net zero by 2030. The way we're getting around this, as far as we can, is by utilising the community, and by empowering the community. And that was what the document was about that was agreed at the last meeting. So if we're going to be encouraging the community to take steps, which they may well not want to, for whatever reasons, maybe they don't want to use public transport, they want to remain in their cars, maybe they don't want to eat local food or whatever. But we're asking them to make changes. We need to show that we are serious as a town council. And I believe that putting the environment in front of services will do that. Now, I mentioned putting the cart before the horse. When we look at the services in the two main areas, we have the beach services. If it were not for the environment being there, there would be no need for deck chairs, there would be no need for cafes at the front. There would be no need for beach cleansing because people wouldn't visit. If we look at parks and open spaces, the services that we provide of keeping the footpaths clear, of cutting grass, of making sure that the trees are safe, they would be unnecessary if it weren't for the environment. So I am arguing that the environment is preeminent. And therefore, I would like to see the name of the committee being Environment and Services in order to reflect the importance of the environment to us as a council, we've declared an emergency. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Lambert. Councillor Harris.
I would like to formally second what councillor Graham has said. And just bring to your attention that the Services Committee, there are only 5 councillors that actually supported the words that are there at present. So I thought it was very important that all councillors had an opportunity of showing where their priorities were. So that's why it's here. 5 for, 3 against, 2 abstentions, and it was taken on the casting vote of the chairman. So that's why I'm bringing this on, and then seconding what councillor Graham has said. I'm about to say.
Thank you, councillor Harris. Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I think this was debated at F&G when we got there, and the recommendation in the paper was from F&G. I think that it's, to prolong the debate on this around the position of two words is slightly, really, I think, to our taxpayers really would be that interested in the wording of 2 words. But I'm happy to support it to move things along this evening. And my only plea here is that maybe the CEE, rather than worrying about the position of 2 words, actually focus on setting some environmental KPIs for the council to be measured against, as I keep asking.
Thank you, councillor Hope. Councillor Dickinson, please.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. Councillor Lambert tried to bring this when we had a big debate about it, and it was defeated. So he's brought it along now to try and get his own way. Now, I can't support it. The committee looked through it, and it was a committee decision, and I think we should support the committee.
Thank you, councillor Dickinson. Just to be clear, the recommendation coming forward was the one of services and environment, but now they're having this, figured my bluntness, but they're having another go at changing it here. Just to clarify that, it's not one that they're bringing up from a committee. They're entitled to challenge that at full council, which they're doing. Any other comments, questions on the amendment by councillor Lambert, seconded by councillor Harris? Okay, we will go to a vote. Those in favour of councillor Lambert's proposal, which is turning around those simple words.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Okay, and those against?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And those abstaining?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is carried.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 14, Ironman 70.3 agreement. We have an officer introducing this, town clerk. Darling.
Thank you, Chair. So as per the report in front of you, this is a recommendation from the Services Committee that we've received and still the document. At the Services Committee, one of the amendments, suggested amendments was that we include that dignitaries from Wales Town Council can award prizes at the finish line and so forth, and that has now been included. There's also been an additional recommendation from the Dorset Council that has been included in the document since it went through services. In addition, it's worth noting that this is pretty much the same document that was signed and sealed a few years ago, and we wish to proceed and fill the fund this evening. So following the event that's happening in a couple of weeks' time, the host organisers can let their participants know of future dates for future events.
John, with any, actually, I'll go to councillor Roos first.
I was going to say, I very much support this proposal, especially around the mayor being there at the finish line or someone of official capacity. And I was going to say, if you want to know who to support, because most locals don't know who to support, Natalie Lawrence has won gold in Europe, in the European Ironman recently. She even beat the men, and she's competing this year yet again. She's Weymouth, so I'm going to be rooting for Natalie Lawrence. Please root for her. She is our champion. She is Wonder Woman. She's got 4 kids. She's amazing. So yeah, that's who you've got to be looking out for. Just
Thank you. We'll make sure to minute all of that. Councillor Bergman, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very supportive of this, really important for Weymouth for a number of reasons, not least reputational. Number of comments have been made to me from participants. In fact, you could actually represent the town by participating yourself, actually, Chairman. But anyway, but moving on, it's great reputational value, but even more than that, encourage physical health. And as Councillor Roos was talking about mental health, physical health improves mental health as well. Good for people, good for youngsters. And again, if we can produce some champions, that's fantastic. Really good for the town.
Yeah, wonderful. Any other comments, questions on this one? Would you like to propose, Councillor Roos, and Councillor Bergman, would you have to second that? Okay, Councillor Roos and Councillor Bergman. Could I see the vote in support of that? Motion, please. Unanimous, thank you very much. Remember, it's moving on.
If I may, Chair, we will seal the agreement straight after the meeting. It needs to be done by myself in the presence of two councillors. So if anybody wishes to just hang back for a little bit and sign, it would be good if Councillor Roos and Councillor Bergman as proposed and seconded to do that. But it can be any two councillors on resolution of the council.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, item 15, beach operations building of lease. There could be some sensitive discussion here. I'm happy to go to private session if members wish to. However, it is within the gift of the report. We'll have Councillor Gray.
I've got a couple of questions which might help.
Okay, so Councillor Gray, can I take that as a proposal to go into private session? Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Hamilton, and could I have an indication from members who support that, please?
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 24.
And those against?
1.
And those abstaining?
1.